Hi, I'm Brian Turo, President and CEO of Safety Enterprises. We're here with another installment of our informational videos. Today we're going to talk briefly about the Glock handguns. Gaston Glock was metallurgist during the mid-80s. He actually was working with the Austrian military to develop coatings and so forth for artillery pieces. He developed a product called Tenifer. It has a Rockwell hardness similar to a diamond, and it was attached to different metal pieces for the Austrian military. He started developing handguns as a result of wanting to get into the U.S. market for law enforcement sales. First model they produced was the Glock 17. I have an example of that here. Most people thought the Glock 17 was called the 17 because it held 17 rounds of 9mm. That was actually a coincidence. It was actually Gaston Glock's 17th patent. That's why it was named the Glock 17. They have three different sizes of that particular firearm. The first one is, of course, the full-sized 4.5-inch barreled Glock 17. They made a model 19, which is a 4-inch version, was their compact, and then they have a subcompact, which is a 3.5-inch barreled version, which is the Model 26. I have an example of that here. The Glock was the first firearm introduced in the U.S. market that was produced with polymer components. The frames are polymer with metal inserts. That's an extremely durable firearm. People had misconceptions when they first came out that they were made out of ceramic and they could get through metal detectors and so forth. That is not the case. Glock currently has about 65 to 70% of the U.S. market for law enforcement sales. It's an extremely popular weapon. Most of the firearms law enforcement community carry are the Model 22, which is the same size as this Model 17, but it is in a 40 S&W cartridge. I'll talk briefly about maintenance and disassembly, show you the firearm. First of all, this gun is safety checked and is open, as you can see. It does have a component very similar to any other semi-automatic in that its magazine release is located on the left side of the frame. It also has a slide release, which also doubles as a slide stop. There are no external safeties on the gun. There is an inertia block safety, which is in the trigger guard that actually is designed to keep the trigger from falling should the gun be dropped or strike the ground. The trigger will not travel. The firearm itself very simple to disassemble and maintain. I'll show you that very quickly. Hitting the slide release would close the action. You want to first pull your magazine, ensuring that the weapon is unloaded. Check your chamber. Verify the gun is unloaded. Holding it in your hand as if you're going to shoot the firearm. You want to swing your fingers up on the top of the slide. Compress your thumb. That will cause the slide to pull back slightly. You'll notice disassembly levers on both sides of the frame. While you're holding that slide in a rearward position, to press both those levers down, holding them in a downward position, then release the slide. If you've done it correctly, these two buttons are in the center position on the frame. At this point, you would pull the trigger. Doing so disengages the slide from the frame, pulls apart very simply. It has a transfer bar system inside that operates in two directions as you're pulling the trigger straight to the rear. This inertia lever actually keeps the trigger from traveling into the frame. When you depress that under spring tension, the transfer bar that you see here, we'll have some other videos showing you close-up views of these actions, but pulling that trigger, the transfer bar travels to the rear. There is a firing pin block release that pushes up on a lever that is inside the slide that disables the block safety for the firing pin. And very similar to a pinball machine, as you're pulling that trigger to the rear, this little lever pulls to the back, just like you would pull that actuating lever on a pinball machine. At a certain point it releases, and that does the same thing here. That transfer bar engages the firing pin mechanism, pulling it to the rear, and at a certain point it drops off. With an average factory trigger of about 5.5 pounds, the gun would then cycle and discharge. On inertia, as the slide travels to the rear, the extractor, which is attached to the slide, as you can see that component right here, drags the empty casing out of the chamber. Traveling to the rear, it hits this fixed ejector, which is attached to the frame, and if everything functions properly, the round will throw the empty casing out, and then the next round is stripped off the magazine under inertia and chambers the next round ready to engage. Very simple to take it apart. You have a compression spring, capture guide rod system, push that towards the forward direction of the muzzle, pull that spring out, your barrel then tips up and out, pull that barrel out, and the gun's ready to maintenance. Having a 3/8 punch and with proper training, you could completely disassemble the firearm in a matter of minutes. A Glock armor would be recommended for you to do that. We do have an armorer's course we'll be showing you on video here coming up on the Glocks. Very simple to use. So reassembly, just the reverse. You have a flat portion of the barrel that goes down into the slide assembly. You'll notice when you put it in, there's a half-moon crescent cut underneath the barrel. The flat portion of your guide rod assembly goes into that section, so put your round end in the hole that's underneath the slide, compress that spring so it locks onto that half crescent piece. You then line the slide up with the rails on the front of the frame and slowly push that to the rear, and with a 1/4 inch of click, the gun is reassembled and ready to go. Again, a brief look at the Glock firearm. Be sure to check us out. We'll have some more videos coming up on our website. If you have any questions and want further information on training and what's available, you can check us out on Facebook at Safety Enterprises LLC, or go to our website at www.safetyenterprisesllc.com.